This is Villa Kenworthy, and today we're going to bake salmon. Welcome to Villa Kenworthy. I'm Dennis, and today we're baking salmon. I want to say thank you to Matt and Jamie. They gifted me a few fillets of salmon that arrived fresh from the West Coast here a couple days ago, and they asked me to make a video using it because they also got some that they want to cook. On that note, I also want to say thank you to all the truckers out there. My buddy Matt, he's a trucker, and he helps deliver goods across the United States, and this right here was delivered from the West Coast by a trucker. Thank you very much for all that you do. We don't even realize how much we depend on you. So I hope everyone out there, if you have a friend or you know someone that's a trucker, or if you run into someone who does that service for our country, make sure you say thank you. They're very important to our economy. This is our beautiful fillet of salmon. It's not the whole fillet. We cut it in half, and my wife used part of it to make sushi the other day. And we're going to take and bake this up for our dinner tonight. It has already been trimmed up. Whenever I received it, it already had the pen bones removed. So down this line right here where you see these little white dots, there's bones that go through there. And if you ever get a fillet of salmon that has those bones in it, you're going to want to pull those out. What I do is I take a pair of tweezers, make sure you get a little cup of water, and then you'll take and you'll put your fingers on either side of the bone, you'll pinch it out, and then you'll press down and pull up at the same time, and then you just switch that around in the water, that little pin bone will come off, and you just go all the way down the line. If I ever get a fillet of salmon that has the pin bones in it, I'll show you how I remove them. Today's recipe is going to be very simple. I've got some butter that I melted into a cup. We're going to use that. We're going to use a little bit of garlic and some dill, lemon juice, then salt and pepper. And that's what we're going to dress this up with, and we're going to bake it. I like to use simple recipes for this because this fish tastes really good on its own, and it doesn't take very long to cook. First thing I'm going to do is get it ready to put it in the pan. I have a glass dish here. I'm going to take and I'm going to spray the bottom of this with a little bit of olive oil. I like to use a spray because it coats it really fast, but you can just put it in there and move it around with your fingers. That's just going to keep the skin from burning to it and sticking to it so that I can clean the pan up later. So I've got my butter. I'm going to take some of the dill. This right here is dill that we got from our garden last year, and we dried it out. I love to use this on different cold salads, and salmon is one of my favorite things to use dill on as well. So I just get a handful of it like this right here, and then I'm just going to crunch it up. And I've got some lemon juice. This is just a more convenient way. I do use whole lemons sometimes and slice them and lay them out, but this wasn't an overly planned recipe. I'm going to take and put a couple of tablespoons of that in with the butter. The butter was melted and is still warm. And then I've got some minced garlic. Usually I would mince it up fresh myself, but like I said, I didn't have this planned out whenever I received the fish, and this is what we had available, so I'm going to use it. It's pickled, so it's got a little bit of tang to it. It's not as good as fresh by any stretch of the imagination, but it'll work in a pinch. That's probably a tablespoon and a half there. So, and I started with 3 tablespoons of butter. If I had a bigger fillet, I would use a little bit more of the butter as well. Mix that up. It cools off the butter, and it'll keep it from starting the cooking process on the fish too early. Now, one thing I did do with the fish is I did take some paper towel and I patted it down to get any moisture off of it. While I'm prepping this, I did preheat the oven. I preheated it to 400 degrees, and I'll try to give a time limit on how long it took me to cook this piece, but as I've mentioned in comments when people ask me how long I cook things for, I don't like to give a time frame because every oven does it differently. With a salmon, if you can touch it and push it and it separates easily, it's done. If it's still sticking together a little bit, it's not fully done. But some people do like their salmon cooked a little more rare than others, so you're going to have to figure out that temperature yourself and where you like it. I'll try my best to answer questions in the comments when I get them. This is Pacific salmon, so it is safe to eat raw or undercooked. Caught salmon that's in fresh water might have parasites. So now I'm just going to take and put this butter and dill and garlic mixture on here. You're going to lose a lot of it that's going to fall off and cook down below it. That's not really that big a deal. I just like to make sure I have plenty. This is probably far more than I actually needed. Now that we've got this mixture in here, I'm going to take and sprinkle some sea salt on it. Be very careful whenever you do this that you don't over salt it. It's better to go lightly and under salt before you cook, and then you can add salt for flavor as you like it, but don't overdo it. And then I've got a little pepper mill here. We'll grind some fresh pepper on it. And this is what we look like before we go in the oven. It looks like the oven is preheated to 400 degrees. I'm gonna pop this in, and one thing you can do is you can baste these juices over the top of it as you cook it if you wish to keep it from drying out. We'll see how this goes. I'll see you when it's done. And this is our finished product. I'm just gonna ladle a little bit more of this butter and garlic mixture on the top. I like to keep them a little bit moist. Another thing you can do is hit it for broil if you like the top a little bit drier. But I like to let it finish cooking during the rest. It took me 14 minutes to get it to this point. Now keep in mind that your oven may be different. Just pay attention to what you've got going on and check it. I pulled away a little bit of the meat and it flaked away immediately, so this is how I know it's done. So a couple of key points. I kept the ingredients simple. We did preheat the oven to 400 degrees, so that's the magic temperature that I use. Feel free to experiment and see where you like to have your range at, depending on your particular needs and your particular oven. I cooked this for 14 minutes to get it to where I like it. Yours may take longer, or it may be a little bit earlier. You just have to test that out and check it yourself. Again, I want to say thank you to Matt and Jamie. Thank you guys, I love you, and I appreciate you giving me the salmon, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I made this one for you. And as always, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Villa Kenworthy.